Would you ever thought there would be protests in 50 states overwhelmingly for more waste, fraud, and abuse? Overwhelmingly for more taxes? When they say that you're unwise and foolish, it's because you're just non-knowing, meaning you are just blinded. Well, that's exactly what happened. It's amazing that we had protests yesterday that literally stated, I want more waste, fraud, and abuse. Why are they saying that though? Well, they could be foolish, but really what it could be is that if people still want the government to give them funds and not to cover up the waste, fraud, and abuse because ultimately they'll benefit from it, then what that says is we're willing to give up freedom and sovereignty and safety all in the name of government taking care of me. That's a big deal. We're going to talk about that today. Also, we're going to talk about what two doctors said. Now, what is Fauci? And we need to listen to him because this man may be pure evil. But then another FDA doctor that just retired, he has nothing to win by saying what he said. Remember, he's retiring. But I think he had a pretty good warning. And he says we need to pay attention to biowarfare because what me being in service realized we're not ready for it. So we're going to discuss that. Also, we're going to discuss what the tariffs have done to people like Amazon. When we all of a sudden realize that this is a good thing with the tariffs. Now, why do I say that? For instance, we're going to hear a testimony from a gentleman who worked for factories back in 50s, 60s, and 70s. Then we're going to see when we started free trade, when Clinton was pretty much talked into free trade, and when all these presidents and your congressmen embraced free trade, what it actually did to people like Amazon, what it actually did to people who sold on Amazon who were not American. What has that done for all these years? I think some great testimonials would be good to hear from typical Americans. Not only that, we're going to finish up with talking about Ross Perot. He said something prophetic. Now, this man was not paid off. Remember, he self-funded his own campaign. But there's something he said, and I think we need to pay attention because now it's almost prophetic. And now we're seeing Trump actually do what Ross Perot once said. Let's dive into all that today and a few more. And a few more stories. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to themacs. Thank you so very much for being here today. We are humbled by your support, by just watching our content. And hopefully together we're gaining wisdom and a common sense approach to the crazy world that we live in. Now we're inside today. It's flooding outside. You'll see a vlog coming up on the next few days about some of the rains that we've had. But we're inside in the pantry again and just talking about some things that are very, very important on this Sunday. First of all, I hope that you took your family to church. I hope that you were in church because more than ever we need a spiritual healing in this nation because there is some major divisions. Now let's talk about the protest yesterday, and that's going to start us off with divisions. What we saw yesterday was literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that we know now that were paid for by NGOs and were basically bussed in. There's a story that Laura Loomer broke that they actually had buses of people coming in. It wasn't just natural. It was planned. Okay, no big deal. What these people did, there's two forms of thought on these protesters. First, they're either not smart, they just wanted money, and they're willing to picket and protest for anything. That's one thought. The second thought is they are smarter, however, they're willing to be subservient, lose freedom, and to be okay with the waste, fraud, and abuse to keep it going because that helps them, maybe, in their own life with entitlements. You're like, Colby, that all doesn't make sense. Well, let's think about it. The things that they're protesting, they're not protesting just the tariffs. They're not protesting, some law. They're protesting in all Trump, Elon, and Doge. That is the only things that they're protesting, which means they are protesting against the finding out and exposing of waste, fraud, and abuse. So what they're actually saying, and the Democratic Party that's actually backing them, is that we want to keep the waste, fraud, and abuse up, which makes no sense. So we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people going out saying, I'm willing to lose my freedom. I'm willing to give up everything to ultimately allow our dollar to fall, our debts to rise, and ultimately for us to be taxed more to cover the losses that we're going to incur because of the waste, fraud, and abuse that we're not wanting to fix. I think about this way. I try to give you examples because I do want us to make sure that we're understanding. What happens if you break a bone? Now, my son has broke a bone. I've broke my finger. And what happens when you go to a doctor? You hear them say, well, we're resetting the bone and then we'll put it in a cast and it'll be okay. Hopefully no surgery. But ultimately, what are they doing? They're resetting the bone. Meaning the break is there. If they left it like it is and just put you in a cast, then it may not heal back and it may be kind of funky looking. You ever saw those people that actually didn't get a reset bone and their finger's all crooked or their arm has got this kind of lump on it? It's because it wasn't reset. What does that mean when a doctor resets a bone? He's mostly saying, I'm going to break it to where it has a clean placement back in. I'm having to reset it. I'm having to break it a little bit more because ultimately it will heal up correctly. Again, let's go back to what we're doing right now. We could wrap a cast on this bad boy and keep our economy going. The markets would be happier, stocks would go up, and ultimately we'd go in piles of debt and we would just hope for it to never cause a problem. Maybe a lump on our arm, but ultimately, hey, it's okay. It still works for a season until you realize it may be problems later on. Or we can voluntarily fix the problem now. We can do like the doctor does and reset the bone. May cause some pain, may cause some discomfort, may take time to heal, but ultimately it comes together in the right way and it heals the bone. You have no lumps, and ultimately your arm goes back to being completely normal, or a finger, or whatever you broke. Well, that's what we're trying to do here. The waste, fraud, and abuse is so bad that the executive branch and the administration is trying to fix it. They cannot fix it without help. And what we're seeing with these protesters, they're saying, we want the broken bones to stay, we're going to mend them the best way we can, and we could care less what the future holds, long as we get what we want right now. Sadly, most of them have no idea what they actually really want, other than the Democrats telling them what they want. 2 stories came out. Yesterday, Leader report dropped that Trump administration is actually more popular than they've ever been, even since the tariffs. So it shows no matter what you're hearing in the news, no matter what protests you're seeing, actually people are excited about it. Secondly, Democrats have lost their way. Even though we see these protests, you know what? The approval rating for Democrats is under 29% now. So a few things can be true. It looks like we're in chaos. The markets are falling, so it looks like we're in chaos. There's people protesting, so it looks like we're in chaos. All the while, it's the broken bone, and we have to learn to break it a little bit more, have the discomfort, and fix it to where it needs to be. The waste, fraud, and abuse has got to stop. I want to tell you a story right quick. Doge official reveals Biden border invasion led to terror mooching off Social Security. Antonio Gracias. Now, I want you to dig into him a little bit. He is the CEO of Valor Equity. This man, he literally went door-to-door knocking for Hillary Clinton. He is an open Democrat, a liberal. He will tell you that. Lives in Silicon Valley and Chicago. Literally has nothing to actually do with the fact of the conservative movement. Listen to what he said. He got asked to work with Elon because he's a brilliant guy, and so he came in to work for Doge. He was supposed to work through Veteran Affairs. He ended up going to Social Security, and he was interviewed by the All In podcast the other day, and it says, what's been mind-blowing is exactly what they're telling you is untrue. It is actually true. Now, this is coming from a liberal Democrat who PR'd and literally gave money to Hillary Clinton, went and door-knocked for Hillary Clinton. That's how much he did not like Trump. He says that Social Security was giving tons of money to migrants. It says just in 4 states we found that 1.2 million had received some kind of grants or some kind of money from Social Security. There's abuse in legitimate programs that loosened requirements and gave money out to people who were here illegally. Not just people who had green cards, not just people we allowed to be here, but the people who were here illegally. He said even downstream, what we saw is that it ended up giving to people who were even on terror watch list. We found people on all the benefit programs that we found unemployment. We found them on Medicaid. We found them on other unemployment benefits contributing to them mooching off of Social Security and taxpayer dollars. He said what we also found was a lot of these people were on terror watch list and were criminals even in their own countries. You wonder why we need somebody like Trump and Elon looking at this stuff. It's because there is so much waste, fraud, and abuse. If we don't go ahead and say, look, voluntarily, we need to find these things so we can fix them, then we're going to be up a creek with no paddle. So again, ask yourself, why are they protesting? Is it because they just don't know, or is it because they just want the handouts to still flow in? That's something you should ask yourself. Now, one thing you should think about is, why are you still in these cities? These cities, they didn't have a protest in my rural town yesterday. People could care less. But they had them in all these cities. Again, I tell you, get out of these cities and states. Now let's move on to the tariffs and why it's important. I want you to listen to what this post said from Smart Scout. It says, Chinese sellers on Amazon. Now, I'm going to go through the numbers during the Trump years, the first Trump years, and then what the numbers are now. In 2016, the top sellers on Amazon were Chinese, were 24%. 2017 were 22%, 2018 26%, 2019 and 2020 33 to 42%. You started seeing the lockdowns in some of these areas, and therefore there you go. You started seeing the growth there to where the lockdowns actually benefited Chinese more than in America. Now, let's go through it now. After the Biden years, no tariffs are going on, more free trade is going on. Chinese sellers' revenue off Amazon is now up to $6.6 billion just in arts and crafts, meaning 60% of arts and crafts are coming from China. 60% of cell phones are coming from China and accessories. 50% of clothing, shoes, and jewelry are coming from China. Tools, 40%. Automotive, 40%. Home and gardens, 45%. Toys, 40-something percent. Appliances, 35%, all coming from free trade agreements for lower prices off Amazon from Chinese sellers. Now, why not bring that up? Because of this story right here. I want you to listen to what this guy said. This is from Bowtied Broke. This is just a regular old guy. He said, I've been selling on Amazon for 14 years, built a huge business there, and helped me fund my exit from corporate America. My re-entry into investment, real estate, my lifestyle, everything changed in 2019. What did I tell you about those numbers? How they started floating up during lockdowns. I saw a lot more Chinese sellers propping up and getting pushed on Amazon. It said if you took an hour to scroll through the series of forums on Amazon, it had become that the trademark infringement and the filed sellers in the U.S. were definitely more Chinese provided. But the caveat was this: many of the persons outside the U.S. were the ones selling. The U.S. sellers could not fight it because Amazon would not listen. A long-standing seller making their living off Amazon now is dealing with copyright infringement, now dealing with lower prices from other providers, now dealing with Amazon not helping American sellers. Now, I don't say this to disregard Amazon. I'm not saying that. They're a business. They're going to try to make their money either way. Take that out of the equation. What we've done, though, is we've opened up free trade for all these years, and what it has now come to is that Americans cannot sell and compete against some of the Chinese markets, especially after 2020. What we realized is 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of things that we were getting were coming from overseas, all because America was not helping its people. Let's go back to what Ross Perot said. And it's all going to tie in. I want you to listen. The reason I'm putting out the facts is because I want you to see the importance of tariffs. Ross Perot was right. Trump proved it. In 1992, during the historic presidential debate, independent candidate Ross Perot looked at America and said, you cannot compete if you're paying $12, $13, $14 an hour in a factory, but then you can go across the border or go overseas and pay $1. He said, and then have no health care benefits, no environmental controls, no retirements. He said there will be a big sucking out of U.S. going to other countries. Boy, have we seen that. Perot wasn't backed by any PACs, any parties, or any special interest. He paid for himself, so therefore there was not any political talk coming from him. It was real talk. He spoke of balanced budgets, public accountability, and the decay of the middle class. Everybody laughed at him, but what was seen by what he was saying is exactly what's happened. Listen to this. Between 77 and 92, the poorest 60% of Americans lost more purchasing power. The top 1% increased their wealth by 138%. Now remember, this is when we started opening up free trade versus actually having tariffs and actually building up manufacturing here. He warned that the government would run by lobbyists and had a $4 trillion public debt because they were outsourcing everything to other countries. He called for slashing congressional perks and staff. Boy, do we need that. Ending special interest contributions, simplified fair tax system, and investment in USA jobs and industries here in America. Now, why is those things not happen? Because he wasn't bought and paid for. He said what the truth was. He said it just like Trump has said it. Listen to what Trump has done since then. Fast forward just till today. Withdrew from the TPP, which is a free trade, trans-Pacific. Replaced NAFTA with USMCA, meaning he took away the free trade agreements that Mexico and Canada were basically living off of through us. slapped major tariffs on China, and brought manufacturing back, promoted economical patriotism and fair trade over free trade, refused to be bought by donors and global corporations. Now, why do I say that? 120 countries put tariffs on us. Did you know that? See, that's what you don't hear, is that there's already 120 different countries putting tariffs on us when we were giving them free trade. All Trump did was say, I'm going to give you the same tariff that you're giving me. And that's what's caused the craziness, the pandemonium. Well, all of a sudden, Vietnam cut theirs, Israel cut theirs, Cambodia cut theirs. Keir Starmer came out this week. I want you to listen to what Keir Starmer just said. Now, he speaks out of both sides of his mouth, and he's been bought and paid for. But I want you to listen to what he just came out and said. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer declared globalization has failed. Plans to show he understands Trump's tariff decision. The announcement is set for Monday. He's supposed to talk about it tomorrow. Globalization doesn't work for a lot of working people. We don't believe trade wars are the answer. However, we do see there could be a different path. Reciprocal tariffs. It shows that what they've done for so long, free trade, actually benefited the very biggest and most rich companies and elite and actually hurt the middle class, proving Trump is not helping the rich. Listen to this. The world's 500 richest people lose $500 billion in the last 2 days. It shows that actually he is working for the Americans to break the bone and set it back right. True resetting versus actually mending. So he's not benefiting the rich. The rich are actually feeling the pressure more because remember, what did I say yesterday? The rich are invested more in the stock market than actually middle America. So what he's doing is exactly what Ross Perot tried to do back 20 or 30 years ago. Think about if Ross Perot would have won or at least had a bigger impact at that point. We would only had about $4 trillion worth of debt versus $36 to $37 trillion worth of debt. Think if he would have not had special interests he was trying to get rid of special interests for Congress and Senate. Think if they didn't get lobbyist kickbacks. Think how different Congress would look for 30 years. You think all those Mitch McConnells, Thunes, Cornyn's, all those people would have stayed in if they were not getting major ultra rich off lobbyists and kickbacks? Last thought on the tariffs before we move on to the outbreaks that they're talking about with these doctors. It says, an older American explained, this is from Wall Street Apes too, it said, how the middle class was destroyed. In 1968, I worked in a steel mill. I was getting paid between $16 to $18 an hour. My house payment was $125 a month. Then we started not putting in tariffs on China steel. Steel started coming in from China and other countries. They were supplementing their industry and they took the steel industry away from us. So I lost my job. They shut the mill down, and then I had to go figure what I was going to do next. He said, at the time I was married with 3 kids, and this was in the 80s, early 80s, and I could not find a job that actually was going to be sufficient compared to what I was in the steel mill to be able to survive. So I had to create my own business, and I've done that. However, what we saw with the auto, the steel, and the free trade agreements actually is what killed our economies and what put us in the situation that we're in today. What he was saying was when we started doing free trade agreements, it may have gotten you cheaper goods, but ultimately it destroyed our industry. It destroyed our manufacturing. And now instead of being a provider, we're a consumer. And that's what we've got to get away from. Someone asked Scott Bessent yesterday, what's the answer with China and America? He said, we need China consuming more and manufacturing less. And we need America manufacturing more and consuming less. Very simple, very to the point. And that's what tariffs will do. It will balance out the system to where we have fair trade and not just trade deficits like we have in America now. This is from Chief Nerds in an interview with Anthony Fauci. And then we're going to move right into another story with another retired doctor from the FDA. It says Fauci warns of future respiratory outbreaks. Warned that the next outbreak will likely be highly contagious respiratory disease. Another CV or a flu strain like the bird flu, which has been affecting mammals. It could come within the next 15 to 20 years. Fauci emphasizes the importance of scientific research and preparedness to mitigate the impact of outbreaks. Now you're like, oh, that's all fake. It's all fake. Remember, the man was over and has never been arrested and prosecuted and still walking around telling you what's going to happen. And remember, he was the one that said it was going to happen last time Trump was president, and it happened. No matter if you believed it or not, it took place and people bought it all the way. I want you to listen to what this other doctor said. This is from Dr. Peter Marks, issued a biowarfare warning. He exits the FDA. I can't go in all the details, but there are man-made threats that we are not prepared to deal with. Now, we hear Fauci talking about respiratory. We hear him talking about biowarfare. It could be one and the same, couldn't it? And he's saying, as the FDA doctor, he's saying we are not prepared for it. Don't matter his politics. Take that out of it. He's not gaining anything. I mean, what's he going to do? Write a book? Maybe. But he's like 70-something. So say he writes a book, makes money. Is that his goal to tell you that? No. What he's saying is, if we're not careful, because of what we've done in the world and how many adversaries that we've made, it has nothing to do with tariffs or Trump or anything like that. But he's saying there's things that is being innovated. There's things that are being made. There's situations that we are not ready for and we're not prepared to deal with. And when you think about that, let's go back. Let's take a step back. We see our cities are having protests for things they don't even really know. We see warnings of outbreaks and issues. We see the fact that our adversaries like Iran and China are threatening war. We're in a bad place. Now, can Trump fix all that and reset it? Probably not. I'll be honest with you. As much as I want to see that, Congress is trying to raise the budget and actually, borrow more debt. The activist judges are trying to hold Trump up. I love what this guy said, a conservative commentator said, why can we not organize and go to the streets and actually promote cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, promote Christian living, promote traditional conservative values? He said, why can't we organize like that? He said, because most of the time we're too busy with our own lives. We think someone else will do it for us, or we think it'll never happen, we're safe. And that's what I don't want us to do. I don't want us to get too comfortable with the status quo to think it's all going to be okay. I think that's what's wrong with us, is we keep electing the same people to do different things and hopefully fix it, and all we're doing is mending a broken bone instead of actually fixing a broken bone and resetting it. We've quit as preppers. We're not buying as much munition. We're not buying as much medicine to put up. We're not doing as much because we think it's all going to get better. And we've been so busy with our own situations that we kind of taken our eyes off the prize. Because Trump won, we're like, oh, it's all going to get better. There's a lot of things happening. And what we need to do is pay attention. Is the outbreak going to be bad? Is it coming 15, 20 years from now? Possibly. FDA warns of a biowarfare that we're not prepared for. Is that happening? Possibly. Why not be prepared for those things? Is the stock market falling out? Yeah, it probably will. But it's because we're trying to balance it and fix it like it's supposed to. But will that affect you? Yeah. So therefore, have you thought about putting money up? Have you thought about getting out of debt? Have you thought about getting on a balanced budget for yourself? You can't fix Congress, you can't fix Washington, but you can fix your own household, can't you? Have you thought about making sure that you can defend your home? Look, in UK right now, they're literally arresting people for social media posts, for Christians giving out leaflets. So are we going to lax ourselves so much that we're going to become like Europe, to where then we prosecute conservatism? Don't believe it won't happen. Pay attention to the stories, because I think we're laxing on actually learning from our mistakes. That's why when these conservative, I say quote-unquote conservative Senate and congressmen come out against tariffs, they're actually coming out against American manufacturing. They're coming out to keep the status quo, and they're coming out to pretty much take your money and give it away to everyone else. 3 people voted not to up the debt ceiling in this Senate bill. 3 people. The rest voted to up it. So are we trying to cut the budget, or are we just trying to spend more and just tell you that we're wanting to cut the budget? Pay attention, be ready, be vigilant, and understand that not everything's going to be cupcakes and rainbows. It's still a long road ahead of us. Go back to the broken bone. We broke the bone, we're trying to reset it, and there will be some pain, some discomfort, and to be honest with you, it's going to take a while to heal it. But once it's healed, if we do it right, it'll all be better. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.
Be free, be free.